But here's the thing. There comes great risk to stuff. My life doesn't get lavish because of what I'm doing today and what I've been doing. It becomes hell. I've had numerous encounters with fucking helicopters hovering over my house. They were hovering over my dad's house. They get so low where they rattle the walls. Scare the shit out of the animals that we've got. His dogs were going fucking crazy at that point. And he was concerned because he was home, and he was like, I've never heard anything like that. So, I've taken videos of this too, but seeing Blackhawks, seeing regular black helicopters that don't even have insignias on them, nothing, and they're just sitting there. But the thing about it that is at least noticeable about this, and it's just kind of there's a hysterical factor to this, how much money they're fucking spending on this to happen, to try to either intimidate me or anybody else for that matter. There's some elected officials and even some government officials I know that are having the same thing happen to them because they've told me about it personally through our encrypted source of what we talk about. So they instructed me that anytime that something like this happens that I could record it, take pictures, because they'll see the timestamps of everything taken and let them know the time and they'll investigate it. Because they can have access to the FAA systems and among other systems that can actually relay where these people are going. They can listen into their comms, because they have to guide through the FAA air traffic, where they're going. I live by the airport in Denver. And the airspace there is restricted because they have airplanes that are flying, every directions to try to, passenger airliners or whatnot. Mm-hmm. So it's not a normal flight path for helicopters. That's what stuck out to me. They were doing it at my place of business where they'd fly over, they'd stop, and then, they would bank off. My dad's house, they get low, enough. It's just, it doesn't become glamorous by speaking about this.
And you have people maybe that you've met through when you testified in front of the Intelligence Committee that are helping you. They're telling you, hey, record this shit, timestamp it, let us know any information you can possibly get. Report it.
Because they said they'll look into it because they know, and several of them are having to deal with this personally.
Is this happening to any of the other whistleblowers that you know?
I know it happens to Dr. Greer all the time.
Okay.
Other whistleblowers, I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's not something that, maybe they do notice, because they're hyper-vigilant with what's going on. Because, with what we're doing, it's putting us in the spotlight, but it's also putting the fucking crosshairs onto us. And the only thing I'm thankful is coming public with this information, at least if something does happen. And I'm not going to rule that out. But if anything does happen, and it kind of proves what we're talking about to be true. And the reason being is because they would not be going through these measures to try to intimidate for no reason.
Yeah.
We're keeping people up at night because of what we're talking about, and that needs to happen.
Yeah.
So, and I even told these government officials when I had my meetings, I'm like, first and foremost, you guys need to understand something. I am in the right state of mind to do this. I don't feel like harming myself. I don't feel like, because everybody makes the joke that Epstein didn't kill himself. No way in shape or form related to that, right? And so same goes here. Like I have no means to harm myself. So if anything happens, it's not from me.
Well, thanks for saying that.
Well, yeah, that needs to be on record, and people need to understand that, because if something does, it's not because I turned a gun on myself or anything like this. Specifically, I'm going to talk about something. El Toro, Marine Corps Air Station El Toro. I'm sure you're familiar with that. It was out in California. There was a colonel there that didn't even know that this was going on his base. But they were flying flights in that had drugs on them. And they were unloading it on his base, and he found out about it, so he went to question them. 2 days later, they find him dead.
Really?
Yep.
Is this on record anywhere?
Yes, it is. You can Google this information. Put Marine Corps Colonel suicide, El Toro. Okay. You can pull this out. Anybody of these viewers can do that too. The family thought it was very alarming because the circumstances. So they did a second opinion for an autopsy. And they said that there was extreme blunt force trauma to his head, which killed him. But then they had gunshot wounds, so there's a shotgun that were supposed to stage to look like a suicide. And so I'm glad that the family actually got the second opinion to say, no, it was blunt force trauma to the back of the head is what killed him, and they tried to make it look like a suicide. And this is a colonel, and the thing that sucks about this is the Marine Corps itself actually tried to use this as a tool to say, you know what, suicide awareness is such a big thing, and it happens with every rank, and they were using this guy for this purpose. But then all of a sudden you start delving into this information and seeing that, the reports that he was making about these illegal flights coming in, and they were unloading drugs. It clearly... These guys, it doesn't matter what rank you are, it doesn't matter what position in government you have, it doesn't matter what you do for a living. If you're going against what they're exposing what they're doing, they're going to get you. So if something does happen, I'm just putting it out there that it's not from my own doing. I don't fucking piss anybody up. Maybe, maybe in the business world to a degree, but it's not enough for them to sit there and do something like that. And I'm glad that I have a private security firm where I've got some guys who look out for my best interests and they know what I'm doing. So they've got my back, realistically speaking. And, and that's the thing too, is any other whistleblowers who are, because I urge other people to come out. If they're needing protection on the way, I'll help with that. I'll orchestrate. But two, the other thing is too, coming out in the fashion that we did was the best because now the right people in the government know. So it's almost like having a pit bull that's wanting to rip you to fucking shreds, but you have this fence that's between you and this pit bull. Mm-hmm. And I feel like the government's going to be that fence, and along with the spotlight that this put me in.
Yeah.
Because it's unsettling to sit there and see these helicopters, man. It's just, it's hysterical. You sit there and wave them, but it's like, keep wasting your fucking money.
Let's talk about the debrief that happened afterwards.
Yes.
What happened when you got back to your command?
So when we got back onto the ship, we ended up returning our weapons to the armory, went to our berthing, put our gear away, went back to the flight deck. There was this admiral there. I'd never seen him before. I don't know who he is. It was just very out of place. He gave a debrief saying, hey, this was good that you guys are doing for these people, which I agree with. But I have no idea who he was. But, I've been on 6 ships, did several humanitarian operations, and not once have I ever seen an admiral on any of them. And this was minor compared to the one in 2011 we did with Fukushima and that natural disaster. Never seen an admiral with that, right? So it's just very out of place. So we went after we concluded this operation, we ended up docking in Subic Bay for some liberty. It was just like 4 days. So the people that we encountered during that event didn't even bother to take my camera or anything. It was in my dump pouch, but it was small enough, so I don't know why they wouldn't have searched it, but they missed it, right? So here I am the whole time thinking like, fucking A, I've got something. I'm not fucking crazy, and neither of us are crazy. Like, we've got something that actually backs up if we were to tell anybody about this, and we can show them pictures of it off of a camera and not something like a computer screen where they can doctor it. Well, I spoke too soon, because when we ended up going out that first day, we came back to report back to the ship, and I saw my camera on my rack, and the memory card was out of it, and it was a big memory card, and the battery was out of it, and I just see the camera sitting. I'm like, what the fuck? So I checked my locker. It was secure because that's where I had it, and I had some stuff on top of the camera in there, in my locker that were on top of the camera, and I had another battery in there, so I took that battery and I put it in there, and it wouldn't even turn the fuck on. And I had some people reach out to me that said, if you had that camera still to this day, that they could do some data retrieval and maybe be able to pick it up. I'm like, but I don't have that camera. I tossed it because the fact that it wouldn't even turn on, it wouldn't do anything. I'm like, fuck, it's just a paperweight. And of course, 2009, you're not thinking of anything with forensics, where they could do something. There was people actually willing to do that, which is great. So somewhere out there, somebody's got this footage. Somebody's got that tape, because that's the reason why they took it. And fun fact is that the other 5 Marines that were with me, they had their phones taken.
Did you look at the pictures before? Did you have a chance to look at the pictures? I know I took pictures and videos of it because I saw the record thing, and I actually can snap the photos, and you can see like it blink. That's one way to describe it. So I knew for a fact. But you didn't go back and review them? Okay. No. Nope. Why not? One, I didn't see it, want anybody to see. Okay. Just for that reason. It was just something to keep, if anybody doesn't know about it, then if I start telling people, then obviously there's things that may happen. Mm-hmm. And of course it did happen regardless, because as soon as we're out in town, all these people, I don't know who it was who did this, by the way, but they didn't even cut my lock. They popped it off somehow because my lock was still intact. So these guys obviously know how to do it, and I don't know who it was, but all of a sudden the other Marines had their stuff taken too. And anybody in the platoon, they didn't have any of their stuff touched. It was only us that were there. Did they take anything else? No. Nope. So after we get done with that, we end up going back to Okinawa, right? And this was a regular normal day. It's probably fast forward a month after we end up getting back. All of a sudden, a duty Marine knocks on my door and says, you need to report up to the CP. I'm like, roger that. So I get my cover, run downstairs, run over, and there's nobody there. I'm like, well, this is fucking weird. And all of a sudden, I go inside, and there's this big opening in his office, and then they have these little offices that have these little doors that you can walk into.
So all of a sudden, I'm greeted by somebody in Air Force dress blues, and he didn't have a cover on, but he had salt and pepper hair, white complexion, older gentleman. He didn't have a name tag on his uniform, which, come to find out, Air Force regulation states that you have to have a name tag on your uniforms. You know, Marine Corps, we don't do that unless it's our camouflage, or if you're a drill instructor or some kind of instructor or some sort of billet that requires you to do that. So he calls me over, and I go over, give him the proper greeting of the day, and then he tells me, go ahead and sit down over here in this office. So I sit down, and he doesn't even bother to sit down. He just says,
you, though? Wasn't the other 5 Marines?
No, they end up having the same thing happen, but this guy did it separately.
It's all individual?
Yes.
Okay.
It wasn't all together. So he told us, again, with what you guys saw, you're not allowed to report this. You're not allowed to talk about it to your family, not to your chain of command. I don't care if a general even asks you. You can go to prison for this. You could be executed. And if you want to chance that, by all means, but you need to sign this. So I take the paper and I look at it, and it's a non-disclosure agreement. The only 2 things I can recall to this day is that it said TSSCI, and it said Indonesia. Those are the only things I could recall. But I skimmed through it and I fucking signed it, because here I am thinking, okay, we're just going to forget about this whole fucking ordeal. And yet this is getting thrown in our face, and here's somebody threatening our fucking lives here with, you know, imprisonment, death, things like that, if we're to talk about this.
Did you ask him any questions?
I tried to ask him who he was, and he didn't say anything. There's some speculation going on about this, because people who know about this, whether it's other whistleblowers and other people who have came forward previously, have said that these guys have the ability to impersonate or even play off as their military officials, or anybody for that matter in the government, to try to extract information to see what you know. So I'm not, you know, because it's odd that he didn't have a name tag. He had the only thing I can tell is that he had a stack of ribbons. You know, Air Force gives ribbons and medals for just about anything, but he had silver jump wings is the only thing I can recall. So other people I've talked to in the military community are still active, just trying to get information. And now they know, because I've came out. They were saying that that if it was an Air Force officer, that has to do with someone Air Force intelligence, because a lot of them had jump wings, and that's kind of the thing that they like to do. He says it's because he didn't have any pilot wings or nothing that would signify he was a pilot. It was just those silver jump wings. Yeah. Just with the parachute, and they had the wreath that come up like this. That's the only thing. And obviously he had the silver oak leaves on his shoulders. But so after dealing with that, it's like, okay, signed it. I'm like, great, you know, just fucking leave it behind. The rest of my career, don't tell anybody about it. You know, didn't tell my family. I told my dad before I ended up getting out of active duty and going reserves. I said, you know, there's something I got to tell you. And he even told me this, you know, when I started coming out publicly about it, and after I had gotten through the right part of the government to go ahead and proceed with this. And now he understands what I was trying to tell him, because I said, just have to wait for the right time to do this, because I don't know. I'm kind of freaked out, you know, it's something. And at that point, 2017, is when I met Dr. Greer, and then fast forward to recently in April, making this happen with the government and telling them and testifying and briefing them what's going on.